You've seen it 1,000 times. Two people lean in. The music swells, their lips meet, and every person watching knows exactly what it means. It feels like the oldest language there is, something written into your body long before words existed. It isn't. Nearly half the cultures on Earth don't kiss at all, and a few find the very idea revolting. In 1890, a group of people in southern Africa watched two foreigners do it for the first time. Their reaction rewrote what anthropologists thought they knew about love. Start with a number. In 2015, a team of anthropologists led by William Jankowiak at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, set out to measure something nobody had actually counted. Everyone assumed kissing was a human universal, the one romantic gesture every person everywhere shared. Some researchers had even claimed it showed up in 90% of societies. So Jankowiak's team went looking. They pulled records on 168 cultures from around the world and asked one plain thing: in this society, do romantic partners press their lips together? The answer came back at 46%, fewer than half. In the other 91 cultures, there was no sign of the romantic kiss at all. Not rare, not private, just absent, the way a word can be missing from a language that never needed it. And in many of those places, when people first saw outsiders kiss, they weren't charmed. They were disgusted. Why would half the world skip something that feels this natural? This is where 1890 comes in. When the Thonga people of southern Africa first watched Europeans kiss, they reportedly asked why anyone would want to share the dirt on another person's mouth. A century later, the Mehinaku of the Amazon called kissing gross and compared it to sharing your dinner. The Trobriand Islanders of the Pacific dismissed it as a silly, insipid pastime. To them, pushing your face into someone else's face wasn't romance. It was closer to bad manners. Jankowiak's team noticed something else buried in the data. The more socially complex a society was, with cities and classes and crowds of strangers, the more likely its people were to kiss. The smallest foraging groups, the ones living closest to how humans lived for most of our history, were the least likely of all. That point's somewhere uncomfortable. If the people whose lives most resemble our deep past didn't kiss, then maybe kissing isn't ancient instinct at all. Maybe it's a fairly recent invention. So how far back does it really go? To find out, you have to leave the jungle and the tundra and go to the mud. Specifically to Mesopotamia, the strip of land between two rivers in what is now Iraq and Syria, where humans built one of the world's first writing systems around 3200 BCE. That script is called cuneiform, and it was made by pressing a cut reed into wet clay, leaving little wedge-shaped marks. For its first few centuries, people used it for the least romantic thing imaginable: accounting, receipts, grain tallies, who owed whom how many sheep. Eventually, though, humans did what humans do. They started writing about their gods and about love. In 2023, two researchers, Troels Pank Arbel at the University of Copenhagen and Sophie Lund Rasmussen at the University of Oxford, published a study in the journal Science built on those clay tablets. Inside a Sumerian myth from around 2500 BCE, on an object called the Barton cylinder, is a description of two gods who have sex and then kiss. That single line is now the oldest clear written record of a romantic kiss anywhere on Earth. It's 4,500 years old, and it pushed the previous record, a text from ancient India, back by a full 1,000 years. Case closed, then? Kissing was invented in Mesopotamia around 2500 BCE? Not quite. The part that matters is something most headlines skipped. Arbel and Rasmussen were careful to say they had not found where kissing was invented. Their actual point was that by 2500 BCE, the kiss already appears in more than one place, in Mesopotamia and in Egypt, treated as an ordinary part of life. A behavior that common, that widespread, doesn't switch on in a single afternoon in a single city. It was already old by the time anyone bothered to write it down, and it may be far older than any writing. Watch a chimpanzee troop after a fight, and you'll see them press their mouths together to make peace. Bonobos, your other closest living relatives, kiss often, and they use tongues. Whatever the impulse behind a kiss is, some version of it was moving through primate bodies millions of years before the first clay tablet ever dried. Which leaves you with a contradiction. The kiss is ancient, older than writing, maybe older than your species. And yet more than half the cultures on Earth don't do it, and some are revolted by it. How can one gesture be both a deep animal reflex and a habit that most human societies never picked up? The answer is that a kiss is doing a job, and the job can be done other ways. In 2013, Raphael Duwaldarski and Robin Dunbar, evolutionary psychologists at the University of Oxford, surveyed more than 900 people to figure out what kissing is actually for. They tested three ideas: that it exists to turn people on, that it exists to hold couples together, and that it exists to size up a possible partner. The winner surprised them. Kissing wasn't mostly about arousal. Its strongest link was to assessment. When your face is that close to another person's, you're flooded with information you can't get any other way. Their scent, the taste of their skin, the health of their breath. Folded into all of it are chemical clues about their immune system, the set of genes your body quietly prefers to be different from its own. A first kiss in this reading is a test wearing the costume of a thrill. And in the study, the people who leaned on it most were women, who consistently placed more weight on that first kiss than men did. That's the piece that resolves the whole puzzle. If kissing is a tool for reading a mate, then it's genuinely useful, which is why it keeps resurfacing across the ancient world. But a tool is not a law. So why would so many cultures give it up? There are other ways to read a person. Some cultures rub noses. Some press their faces to the neck and breathe in. And in a world before toothbrushes and dentists, pushing your open mouth against someone else's carried a real cost. Jankowiak pointed this out himself. In societies with no dental care, the people who didn't swap spit may simply have gotten sick less often. A gesture that helps you choose a partner is worth keeping. A gesture that also spreads disease is worth dropping. Different cultures did that math differently, so the kiss was never a single instinct switched on inside every human. It was an option. A thing you could do with the same lips you used to eat and to speak, and every culture decided for itself whether the reward was worth the risk. Which brings it back to you, and to the last time your lips met someone else's. It felt automatic, like your body already knew the steps, but it didn't know them the way it knows to breathe or blink. You know how to kiss the way you know your first language, learned so early and so deeply that it feels less like something you picked up and more like something you always were. Nobody sat you down and taught you. You absorbed it from films and playgrounds and the adults around you until a specific, local, invented gesture came to feel like the natural shape of love itself. So why does a habit this invented still feel like a reflex? The strange machinery underneath is still running. When you kiss someone new and some quiet part of you returns a verdict you can't fully explain, a yes or a no you feel before you can argue with it, that isn't magic. That's 4,500 years of a habit doing exactly what those first tablets hinted at. You're running an ancient test with a very old tool and calling the result chemistry. So picture that theater one more time. The music swells, two people lean in, and everyone understands. Everyone in that particular room, born into that particular culture, taught the very same script. The Thonga in 1890 weren't cold, and they weren't backward. They were fluent in a different language of closeness, watching two strangers perform a gesture that carried, for them, no meaning at all. Kissing was never the oldest language there is. It's a young, local dialect of love, and you simply happen to be raised speaking it. You lean in not because your body always knew how, but because somewhere along the way, someone showed you that it meant everything.